All right, so we have the Paul George situation is insane. You know, obviously we know Paul George. You know, he's been suspended like 25 games for the drugs thing. So whatever, let's go ahead and see it.
Will cost Paul George the next 25 games.
Guys, this is going to cost Paul George almost $12 million.
That he takes full responsibility and apologized to the team and fans.
Kind of next man up mentality for quite a while, and we're going to have to dig in and do it again.
5 days ago, Paul George had the best game of his entire Philadelphia 76ers career. 32 points, 9 3-pointers. He became only the third player in NBA history to hit 9 threes in a single game, joining only Steph Curry and James Harden in that club. The Sixers blew out the Bucks by 17 points. Joel Embiid was healthy. Tyrese Maxey was cooking. For the first time in what feels like forever, the Big Three in Philadelphia actually looked like it could make some noise in the Eastern Conference. So the NBA naturally looked at this situation and said, hold on, something here ain't right. And guess what? They were absolutely correct. On Saturday morning, the NBA dropped a bomb that nobody saw coming. Paul George has been suspended for 25 games for violating the league's anti-drug program. That's a quarter of the entire season gone, and the reason behind it is where this story gets really fascinating. And what's even crazier is, believe it or not, this may have just helped the Philadelphia 76ers even more. I'm going to get to all of that in just a minute, so make sure you subscribe and have your notifications on, and follow us on Instagram so you can influence what content we make. And real quick, just one announcement. This is the final one of the year, guys. Drake May just needs one passing yard for his square to cash during the Super Bowl. Now, I've been red hot on PrizePicks, making over $800 through my pick. The NBA announced that Paul George violated the terms of the NBA NBPA anti-drug program. Now, under this program, players get randomly tested for 3 categories of substances: drugs of abuse, alcohol, and PEDs. And the league didn't specifically say which category Paul George fell into, but here's the key detail that tells us everything. A 25-game suspension is the standard punishment for a first-time PED violation under the 2017 collective bargaining agreement. Before that, it used to be 20 games. They bumped it up to 25 specifically to send a stronger message. So when you see 25 games, that's the league's way of telling you that Paul George wasn't just smoking the devil's lettuce or going on a bender with some of his buddies. This was the PED category. Now, the financial hit Paul George is taking from this is absolutely brutal. I mean, he's making $51.7 million this season. The suspension is going to cost him roughly $11.7 million in forfeited salary. He won't be eligible to return until March 25th against the Chicago Bulls, which means he's going to miss everything from now through late March. The Sixers will only have 10 games left in the regular season when he comes back. 10 games to figure out chemistry with the guy who hasn't played in 2 months. That's a nightmare scenario heading into the playoffs. Now, this story unfortunately takes a very dark turn. Paul George released a statement to Shams, and I want to read you exactly what he said because the wording here matters. Over the past few years, I've discussed the importance of mental health, and in the course of recently seeking treatment for an issue of my own, I made the mistake of taking an improper medication. I take full responsibility for my actions and apologize to the Sixers organization, my teammates, and the Philly fans for my poor decision making during this process. He went on to say that I am focused on using this time to make sure that my mind and body are in the best condition to help the team when I return. Now, some people are wondering if this is just some convenient excuse, because this is typically what anyone says whenever they get caught with PEDs.
Oh, I just took an improper medication and it just happened to have testosterone in it. Oops.
But you can make a very reasonable argument to give Paul George the benefit of the doubt because he's been a huge vocal advocate for mental health in the entire NBA for years now. In August of 2020, during the NBA bubble, Paul George came forward and admitted that he was struggling badly. He said he was in a dark place mentally. He talked about how the isolation of the bubble environment was getting to him. After a really terrible 3-game slump where fans were clowning him online, he dropped 35 points in a pivotal Game 5 against Dallas and then opened up about what he'd been going through. He said, "The bubble got the best of me. I was just in a bad place. I really wasn't there. I really wasn't here. I checked out." So Paul George didn't just talk about this once and move on. He made it a central part of who he is. He partnered with BetterHelp to provide up to $3 million worth of free mental health services to people in need. He did interviews specifically to encourage others to get help. He talked about going to multiple therapists himself. And just 2 weeks ago in an interview with Philly Sports Network, Paul George talked about how the last 2 years have been a mental battle for him. He mentioned personal stuff going on, the California fires threatening his home, frustration from injuries, and holding himself accountable for not living up to his own expectations. He said that there was just a ton of stuff that was weighing on him. So when he says the suspension stems from seeking mental health treatment and taking an improper medication, I think we should be taking this seriously. This isn't some guy who's never talked about mental health before suddenly using it as a shield. This is someone who has been open about his struggles for years. Now here's where this gets interesting, and this is a twist that nobody expected. This suspension might actually give the Sixers front office exactly what they wanted.
Truth is, you can beat cold sores with an
For
antiviral. Abreva, get back to being you faster.
Let me explain. The Sixers have been in an awkward position all season long. They were sitting about $7 million over the luxury line, and if you know anything about this organization, you know that Josh Harris, their owner, has been accused of ducking the tax for years. Joel Embiid called this out just 2 days before the suspension. He told reporters,
We see we've been ducking the tax the last couple of years, so hopefully we'll keep the same thing. A lot of other guys that are in here, so I think we got a shot. So it's hopefully I don't know what they're gonna do, but I hope at least we got a chance to just go out and compete.
that's the franchise player of this team putting pressure on ownership to spend money. That's how bad this tax situation has been. But here's where Paul George's suspension comes in. When a player gets suspended for 20 or more games, the team gets to deduct half of that player's forfeited salary from their luxury tax payroll. So with George losing $11.7 million, the Sixers get a tax variance credit of about $5.87 million. So do the math. They were $7 million over the tax. They just got a $5.87 million credit. That leaves them only about $1.3 million over the luxury tax line.
Damn.
Now, instead of having to make a significant trade to dump salary, they can probably duck the tax with a minor move. They don't have to trade Kelly Oubre Jr. or Quentin Grimes just to save money. The suspension just did the heavy lifting for them. Is that a silver lining? I mean, maybe, kind of. It's definitely not how anyone wanted this to happen, but in a weird way, Paul George's mistake might have saved the Sixers from making a roster-damaging trade just to satisfy their owner's desire to avoid the tax.
Talk about unexpected.
Well, Paul George can still practice with the team and travel with them, but he has to leave the arena 2 hours before tip-off for every game. He's going to watch 25 games from home or from a hotel room somewhere, unable to do anything but wait. The trade deadline is February 5th. The Sixers were already in a weird spot, with Embiid publicly pressuring them not to make cost-cutting moves. Now they have even more decisions to make. Do they go get help to replace what George provides? Do they trust VJ Edgecombe and Kelly Oubre Jr. to fill that gap? Do they go out there and try to trade for someone that could fill that void? Nick Nurse has to figure out his rotation all over again. He called this a punch to the gut, but said he's got to lead the charge and get the team fighting. And Joel Embiid, the guy who has been healthy for once, the guy who was averaging 27.9 points and looking dominant again, now he's got to carry an even heavier load. The danger is that they push him too hard, play him too many minutes, and something breaks down right before the playoffs. That's the Sixers' nightmare scenario playing out in real time. As for Paul George himself, he's got 25 games to sit with his thoughts, to work on his mental health like he says he wants to get his mind and body right. He'll come back on March 25th against the Bulls with only 10 games to shake off the rust before the playoffs. The question is, what version of Paul George comes back? Is it the guy who hit 9 threes against Milwaukee and looked like vintage playoff P? Or is it someone who's been knocked down yet again, dealing with public scrutiny, financial loss, and the weight of letting his team down? Let me know what you guys think about this crazy situation in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy.
Hold on.
The question is, what version of Paul George comes back? Is it the guy who hit 9 threes against Milwaukee and looked like vintage playoff P?
I hope
or is
so.
it someone who's been knocked down yet again, dealing with public scrutiny, financial loss, and the weight of letting his team down? Let me know what you guys
I hope not,
think
bro.
about this crazy situation in the comment section down below. Aside from that, I'm your boy Mike. I'm dropping our mic until our next upload.
I really hope he comes back strong for real, man. Because you don't want to get yourself suspended and then come back, not even ready, not even there mentally, bro. You like when you come back, bro, you better put on, as like an apology, bro. But whatever. You guys let me know what you think about this in the comments, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.